And the Communicators coverage of the Consumer Electronics Show from the Las Vegas Convention Center continues this week. Over 3,000 companies showed off the latest technology at the show in January of this year. This week, we visit with the CEO of Ericsson, as well as take a visit to the Intel booth at the Consumer Electronics Show. First up, the CEO of Ericsson. Well, we're pleased to be joined here at the Consumer Electronics Show by the President and CEO of Ericsson, Hans Vestberg. Mr. Vestberg, first of all, welcome to Las Vegas.
Thank you.
And if you would, tell us about the Ericsson company.
The Ericsson company was founded 1876, and we have since then been the world leader in telecommunication equipment, first in the fixed, now in mobile. Today, 40% of all mobile networks in the world are Ericsson mobile networks supporting operators. We have roughly 100,000 employees worldwide. We have business in 180 countries. So we are a company that are doing research and development, getting out products in order to enable the mobile broadband, the mobility and the fixed networks all around the world. We spend roughly $4.5 billion a year on research and development.
Where are you based and how large in the U.S.?
We're based in Sweden. It's a Swedish company since its inception. However, US is by far our largest market, both on volume-wise, but also one of the largest markets when it comes to employees. We have some 15,000 to 16,000 employees in the North American market today.
Now, Mr. Vestberg, when mobile phones in the U.S. started to become ubiquitous, the Ericsson name was a familiar brand name, but not today. Why is that?
I think that in the beginning of the mobile networks, the mobile phone was an extension of the network. So you sold the network with a mobile phone. So we actually started, when we started to do mobile networks, we also started with the Ericsson brand of mobile phones. Then after a couple of years after that, we merged with Sony Ericsson and we made a joint venture with Sony Ericsson that has been going on for 10 years. And that in October timeframe last year, we decided to split that and we're actually selling that back to Sony. So Sony will now run the mobile handset business that we were part of before. So we are leaving the handsets. We were part of that from the beginning because it was an extension of the mobile networks. Today, a mobile phone is so much more than an extension of the network.
Well, why are you leaving? Why are you leaving the joint venture with Sony Ericsson?
I think that the mobile phone has evolved so much, and today it's much more than a voice-centric gadget. It's a lifestyle gadget that you need to have content in, you need to have design into. Ericsson is best in the technology, developing what's inside. So we are developing things inside the mobile phone and the whole mobile networks and the fixed networks. That's sort of what we are doing and what we are at the best.
So if a U.S. consumer is a customer of Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, etc., what Ericsson products might they be using?
Most likely when they make a phone call, it will be through the Ericsson radio base stations and through the Ericsson switching equipment, as we are main supplier to all of those that you mentioned. So that means that we are catering for the call that they're doing or the data session they're doing on their smartphone when they're checking the Twitter or the Facebook. Then it's going to be an Ericsson session set up by that. So we are sort of catering for all the coverage and all the data capabilities of the networks.
Now, Mr. Vestberg, you're doing one of the keynote addresses here at the Consumer Electronics Show, and one of your topics is the networked society. What is that?
I think that when we talk about the network society, we talk it in two phases. One is that in the network society, anything that benefits from being connected will be connected in the future. The other side of it is that we believe that this is the fifth technology revolution, the whole ICT that we're into. And a technology revolution has two phases. The first phase is a deployment phase or an installation phase where you build out all the networks. And today we have 6 billion mobile subscriptions, 1 billion fixed lines. We're going to increase that the years to come, but we have reached a huge installed base. And based on that, we start to see new innovation that we never thought about. I mean, just imagine when we started to build the mobile networks, there was only one service. That was voice. We wanted to call each other. Today, what do you do with your phone? It's totally different things. And you start actually connecting cars, you see here at the CES, you do healthcare devices on the mobile networks. That is a second phase, and that's what we call the network society, where everything that benefits from being connected will be connected to the networks. And that was totally different from what we thought when we started this process of building the networks together with operators. We thought that it's going to be great, you and me calling each other. Some of us even thought that it was a crazy idea. Why do I need to move around when I talk to you? Today it's given, but it's given also that we are transforming your life with the phone, businesses, and we're transforming the society by healthcare, education being redesigned by using this technology. And that's what I'm going to talk about. The network society is here, and it's so important that consumer electronics is part of that, because they are a huge part of that change.
5.8 billion mobile subscriptions at this point worldwide. Yeah. And in a recent interview with the Consumer Electronics Association, you said that 85% of the world has a mobile phone subscription. Does that raise the issue of spectrum shortage, of spectrum usage?
I think that what we see in the world right now is that we're still going to see growth. We believe that over 90% of the Earth population will have mobile coverage by 2015. And of course, spectrum is what we're using in order to be as efficient as possible. There are two things that are important. One is that we spend $4.5 billion US in research and development, as I said. And of course, we are innovating new ways of using the spectrum more efficient. Different ways of allocating the spectrum in a smarter way. So that we will do. On the other hand, spectrum is a scarce resource. And of course, the more spectrum you have, the better it is, because you can get better service to your consumers, and the operators can actually operate better. And in many cases, we need to understand the social impact of the mobile networks. We have done numerous studies, or we collected 124 studies that has been done on broadband, and it was two conclusions. One was for every 10% of broadband penetration, you get 1% sustainable GDP. And for every 1,000 broadband connections, you get 80 net jobs. So this is a matter for a country as well, because this is transforming a country. So that's why spectrum is, of course, a very important piece in that puzzle to gain and get those efficiencies and transforming a country.
Mr. Vestberg, as a multinational corporation that deals in 180 countries, do you have to deal with 180 federal communications commissions and different spectrum requirements?
I think that one thing that is unique in our industry is that we share a lot of technologies. We share a lot of how we use spectrum and which spectrum we're using. And there's a reason why you can move a phone from Sweden to US to Pakistan, wherever, and it works, because it is a lot of standardization. The industry is based on standards. Ericsson has the majority of all the patents on 2G, 3G and 4G. We license that out to anyone who wants to use it, because then we know the scale is going to come and the prices comes down. However, of course, I deal with the commissioners or in every country, talk to them. What is good in one country could be other countries. So it's very normal that I meet the Minister of Telecommunication or the regulator to talk about the latest development, how they can use spectrum.
Two of the issues, Hans Vestberg, that we worry about here in the United States, the Congress, the FCC, piracy and privacy. What is Ericsson doing about those issues?
I think that first of all, you're absolutely right. You need to be very careful, because everything is going to be open. It's going to be huge, massive networks that's going to be used, and people are going to get a lot of benefits from it. So on one hand, you need to remember all the benefits you're getting in the network society. On the other hand, you also need to understand the privacy issues and seeing that people really understand what they are giving into. And the piracy has been there for quite a while, and I think we just need to be very clear that piracy and copying is not fair, and is not a way to do business, because there are many people that are investing quite a lot of money in order to do these brands, these products, and piracy is not fair. So I think that we need, as industries, come together and work very hard and seeing that we're not accepting that. And I think that we see more and more of that. And given that the network society will happen and more will be connected, these will of course be very important challenges in that network society.
Has Ericsson suffered from piracy issues?
I think that of course, I mean, as a world leader in telecommunication, been so for a long time, of course there are people that want to copy us. I think it's quite difficult, because we are in a very heavy R&D, etc. But of course that's probably happening, but that's not my main concern. I think that we share our technology. We standardize the technology, so that's part of the game. If you want to use what we have invented, our patents, you can use it, and then you cross-license it with them. So I think that that's a little bit different from our industry, that we are sharing in between each other in order to get the lowest cost and the most efficient solutions. So we have the same solutions in Africa as we have here in the US. The same technologies is coming out here, but then we can bring down the cost, and the benefit for the consumer is finally what is most important.
Mr. Vestberg, have you been to the Consumer Electronics Show before, and what are your impressions of this 2012 show?
I have to be very honest, I have never been to the show before. This is the first time. I have been browsing around this morning and looking around, and I have to say it's an amazing show. It really shows the gathering of all the consumer electronics and all application developers in the world, and I think it also shows the power of how fast this development have come. What I see is, of course, everything almost is wireless enabled when you go around here, which is just amazing in such a short time where nobody knew what a smartphone was for 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Now everything is built around that an application. So it's amazing to see. I mean, I'm really excited to see it.
Cloud computing, how does that figure into your business plan?
I think the cloud computing figure very well into our plan, because we're going to see the three pillars for transformation is going to be the connectivity or the mobile coverage, the broadband, and the cloud services. Those three pillars are going to transform any industry. I mean, I can take example like education, where you can be in a very rural area. If you have connectivity and broadband, and you put education digital or in the cloud, then actually you can educate the cloud people or students in a very rural area. So that is the transformation. So the cloud is a very important way to bring down the barrier even further for efficiency. It could be healthcare, it could be another application that you put up in the cloud together with the connectivity and the broadband. And then you can transform any industry and get the new efficiencies. So I think the cloud is playing very much into it. Certain products that we have are in the cloud, certain services that they give to the operators are in the cloud, but then of course we see even more enterprise solutions now coming in the cloud in order to redesign processes for different enterprises.
Hans Vestberg, when you look 10, 20 years out, what are you most excited about technology-wise?
When I look out and think about the future, first of all, I'm excited that the technology that we are providing is going to be used in a totally different way the next 10 years. And sometimes probably our own imagination is putting a limit here to what we believe. But if I look at technology, I'm going to see even more speeds coming up, meaning that the 4G will give even higher speeds, better latencies. With higher speeds and latencies, new services can come. I mean, we will talk about here about that a connected car with 4G will have a latency of only 100 milliseconds. And that might not say so much to you, but what it means is that actually one car can communicate with the car behind you. And when you push the brake on the car in front of you, you can actually send a signal to the car behind you, and that can actually brake. That is so short latency when you use a 4G chipset in a car. So then you can think about how you can rethink the whole connected car, because you connect the cars and they can actually steer the traffic and avoid accidents and hazards.
But higher speeds again, and the smartphones, tablets, etc., use a lot of spectrum. Is there a solution? Does Ericsson have a responsibility to develop efficient product?
Yes, we have I think that we have a responsibility as the leader in this industry to develop new ways of using the spectrum in a smarter way. We will come with new solutions, and I'm certain that we will be able to use different technologies at the same time, different spectrums at the same time, to bundle them and use them much smarter, because it's always inefficiencies in spectrum between different bands and frequencies. And here, of course, there are innovations that we are doing with our engineers that we have in Sweden and all around the world that actually want to do that. So yes, we feel a big responsibility for actually proving that you can use the spectrum even more efficient.
Hans Vestberg, in the last couple of years, the US has rolled out a national broadband plan. What's been the experience in Sweden?
In Sweden, when it comes to broadband, we were pretty early out, especially on the fixed broadband and the mobile broadband, and it has been a very good, I would say, impact on the society, because we have come a lot of new innovation, especially from the society piece, but also from the enterprise piece, that the enterprise are using the broadband in order to innovate their businesses, etc. And in Sweden, we have shared broadband that can be shared among operators. That was our model. Doesn't really matter. That might not work in any country, but in Sweden it worked. So we have a good feeling for that. Sweden was actually first with 4G in the world, which is we are very proud of. We supplied it to an operator in Sweden. So Sweden is still in the forefront of a lot of broadband, etc., even though we're a small country.
How has the recession affected your company?
I think that up to the third quarter when we reported, we have had the Southern Europe impact. I guess we have had that for several quarters. The instability in those markets from the come to macroeconomy has actually taken down the investment. The other has been the Middle East and part of Northern Africa, which has had their challenges, which also have taken down the investment. So that's what we have seen so far. The most important we have seen so far is that the underlying demand for people using networks, smartphones, etc., that has been remained. And that's of course reflecting also the investment levels. But we will see when we report the fourth quarter, when we go into this year 2012, how this macroeconomics will impact our company.
What kind of devices do you use personally?
For obvious reason, I'm using a Sony Ericsson. we still own Sony Ericsson, even though we are departing right now. So I have an Android phone from Sony Ericsson that I basically have half my life on, with all the mails, all the different type of news that I need for my daily work. So I guess this is part of my life, and I check it extremely regularly.
Now, what about the future of apps? Do you see those continuing?
I think that apps will in many cases continue to be extremely vital, as the internet is just growing with information. I think you and I, as users, want the easy way to find it and not maybe search all the time. So apps will be important to find your way. I also think that the app providers will be one way of promoting their brands and actually get the loyal community of users that are using the app, that they can start to understand, so they can establish a relationship with their consumers through an app, which nobody thought about for 5 years ago before an app existed. So I think that we're still going to see quite a lot of development on the app side, how it develops, models for using it, and how it won't interact with you and me.
And finally, Mr. Vestberg, what do you say to somebody who can look out and see all these brand names and all this new technology and words that perhaps they've never heard before, and they're scared of the technological future?
Of course, my first answer was don't be scared about technology revolution or evolution, because that is really bringing a lot of benefits. And I think that what you see out here, that's what we're created in the whole mobility and the fix that we have built together with operators around the world. Now we see the innovation of it on top of the network, and that's what I'm talking about, the second phase in the network society. And it's bringing a lot of efficiencies, both for you and me, for enterprise and our society. So I don't think that anybody should be afraid of it. I think the technology evolution is a must for us to actually handle all the growth that we have on this planet.
Hans Vestberg is the president and CEO of Ericsson, and he's been our guest on the Communicators. And that was Hans Vestberg, CEO of the Ericsson company based in Sweden. Up next on the Communicators, a visit to the Intel booth. And here at the Intel booth at the Consumer Electronics Show, we are joined by brand manager Bryan Deaner of Intel. Mr. Deaner, what is Intel introducing here at the 2012 Consumer Electronics Show?
Well, Peter, we actually have a pretty exciting show this year. I think the big story for us is really about the experience that the consumers really have. And Intel really has great technology and products that really power a lot of the new ultrabooks and the new smartphones and some of the things we're going to talk about. We really have sort of the brains behind these technologies. So we have a really interesting reason to be here in that we're really the innovation of the industry.
Well, Mr. Deaner, one of the themes of the show this year seems to be ultrabooks. What is an ultrabook?
Ultrabook is all about mobility. Ultrabook is all about taking what you kind of know about performance and computing and really putting it in a new style and a new design.
Are these ultrabooks here?
So these are all ultrabooks right now.
They look like laptops.
So there's a couple of things that really make an ultrabook. First of all, it starts with the Intel second generation core processor. So that's really at the heart and the brains of the overall ultrabook. But what you'll see, I think, very quickly is that while it has the full performance of a traditional laptop, it's anything but traditional. What you really have is a couple of things. One, you have a really sleek design and a really sort of elegant design. They're all manufactured to be less than 1 inch thick. They're also ultra responsive. So what we find is that we love our smartphones that you turn on, our tablets, they sort of pop right up. In our laptops, what we have is typically about a 30-second boot time. When I say ultra responsive, when you open these up, it really has about a 7-second startup, and you're working with your applications and your program. So it's really a highly responsive. That's the second thing. There's also some new security built into this that's brought to you by software and hardware based on Intel that really help with your overall identity protection when you're doing online commerce and e-banking and these sorts of things, and also overall with your identity protection. There's just some new security features that we've built into Ultrabook. So it really is a couple of things baked into one.
Now, I've seen a couple different manufacturers here for the Ultrabooks. Do you work with all manufacturers across the board?
In fact, our customers are really excited about this. So we have about 75 designs coming out this year alone. We introduced this in the last quarter of last year, but really this year is the year of innovation around Ultrabook. So it's really a new category, and we're really ushering in a new era of computing. In fact, what you actually see as we get towards the latter part of the year, we don't have specific designs here on the show floor, but you'll see these Ultrabooks that are also convertible. So they'll have the sort of the traditional aspect of the keyboard and the performance, but you'll also have touch screens, and you'll have screens that sort of either flip around or turn over. So it really becomes both a laptop that in the form of Ultrabook, as well as a tablet. So you're really getting two devices in one.
Something else that's come out that Intel is introducing is a new smartphone.
That's right. So the new smartphone we just announced yesterday, and this is just a sample design, right? So this isn't the actual new smartphone. But what we've announced is that we have the chips that go inside and the technology that's going inside of smartphones. So it's based on our Intel Atom processor. And we announced yesterday a deal with Lenovo, as well as a multi-year, multi-unit deal with Motorola. So you're going to start seeing more and more smartphones coming out based on Intel inside.
So what is special about this phone here?
So I guess a couple of things. So first of all, it's based on let's get this started here. There we are. There we are. I think there's a couple of special things about it. One is it's based on the Intel Atom processor, so there's a great level of performance and also a very low power. So you can really be sort of working on this all day, and it doesn't get hot even if you're doing like really intense applications. It supports full HDMI output, so you can run video if you want to from this. You can do really, I think, interesting and advanced things around 3D video imaging, and a number of different new things. Very exciting. Yeah.
What about security features?
So security, actually, with our purchase of McAfee last year, there's a whole new mobile security suite. So I think people are really sort of understand the whole notion of security with their Ultrabooks and their laptops, and they maybe think about it for smartphones, but they haven't really done anything about it. So with McAfee, the purchase, there's a new mobile security suite where you can download an app and get a higher level of security and confidence on your smartphones.
Now, Bryan Deaner, as brand manager, what does that mean?
Well, I think what that means is, I think people really focus on the sort of the fun things and the productive things they can do with their devices, but they want to make sure that they're also secure and smart. They want to make sure that what they're doing online, the footprints they're leaving, and the transactions they're making are secure. And so Intel is really working with our new partner and our new company McAfee to make sure that we're providing a level of security both at the software level and at the hardware level. So really, we're trying to protect you on a couple different levels.
How important? You have quite a large display here at the Consumer Electronics Show. A lot of people down here.
Yes.
How important is CES?
Well, CES it sort of really starts our year every year, and like I said, even though it's more of a consumer-focused industry show, that we really create the products that go into and really. I think really help bring to life a lot of the other sort of phones and laptops and other devices you see around the show, smart TVs, things like this. We're really one of the building blocks that go inside and really help the industry find innovation and new intelligence.
How's the fiscal health of Intel, given what the country has gone through the last couple of years?
You know, Intel actually we had our best year ever last year. So earnings are coming out next week, but we had a really strong year. And I think what we find is that a couple of things that we're really noticing. One, people want to have more and more devices, not less devices. So everyone has a laptop or a tablet or now an ultrabook, but you also want to have your smartphone and a couple of different devices, as well as different designs and form factors within a family. So. I think people are one, buying multiple devices, and two, I think that in the emerging markets, and as well as in established markets, we're really seeing a nice run-up. So we're almost counter-cyclical to what's happening in the economy because I think of the innovation and the new products that we bring to market.
Bryan Deaner is a brand manager at the Intel Corporation. We're here at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. For the past several weeks on the Communicators, we've been showing you some of our coverage from the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. The show happened in January of this year. If you'd like to watch any of those previous programs or any Communicators programs, go to cspan.org.